Live, we are coming to you today joined by Amanda McMillan, the CEO of Chicago Home Partner, an affiliate of At Properties. Amanda, thanks a lot for your time here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
So let's get into it. How is the real estate market being affected by COVID-19?
I think the better question is, how is it not being affected? That's probably a shorter answer. Essentially, I think the whole world is feeling a big impact on what's going on. And essentially, our business did a complete, I don't even know if I'd say it was a 180 or a 360. We did a complete turnaround, and we pretty much had to change every protocol and every way that we did things within probably about a 72-hour period of time.
And in terms of that turnaround, I mean, real estate, you're selling, people's dreams, people's homes. How has your interaction with clients just had to change over the last week and a half?
Well, it's interesting. I'd say the one thing that, kind of tapping back into the last question, the one thing that hasn't changed is our approach to actually how we work with our clients. We have always been incredibly consultative, trying to figure out what the clients are looking for, trying to figure out what they're looking to accomplish on a much bigger scale than just the house that it is, so that we can really help them. Now, that piece hasn't changed as we've moved forward. We're still, and we've probably even heightened the consultative aspect, the adversarial piece of it. What has changed is just our communication with our clients. First and foremost, most of our face-to-face is now gone. We've taken our business and we've made it, I'd say, about 90 to 93% virtual at this point. There's still some things out there. We still are considered an essential business, so we are out on the field a little bit, but we've drawn back on that. But the amount of times we're having correspondence with their clients, the amount of times we're having conversations, video chats, conferences, whatever it may be, that's been heightened because obviously there's a lot of fear in what's going on right now, and people are very, very nervous. They need to hear from us. They need to hear what's going on, and they need to understand so that we can be making really, really smart choices in what we're doing right now.
And you talk about the heightened state of anxiety that people are just experiencing in general, let alone going through purchasing a home or selling a home. So how do you kind of judge just the selling aspect of it versus, like you said, the consultation aspect in knowing where people are at mentally and what they can really just handle right now?
Well, I think, the questions that I'm getting so much these days are, what's happening with the market and should we be buying or selling? And the long, short answer there, it's a case by case basis. I mean, this isn't a market that you just steer clear of and you hunker down and you sit tight and you don't do anything. Most people would be pretty surprised to hear that we're in a very different capacity, but we're still out there selling homes. In fact, I've joked, I've got a lockdown tally of homes that have gone under contract. Right now we're up to 3. So people are still out there buying homes because there's certain people that still need homes. And the fact of the matter is especially when you're looking at residential real estate, whether there is a medical crisis going on out there or not, people still need homes. But once again, then it's taking a step back and saying, what is everyone's individual situation? Are they in a position that, based on what's going on in the economy and in the world, that they should be looking to buy or sell? And then trying to figure out what makes sense in there and the long-term perspectives. I mean, obviously, we don't know exactly what's going to be happening out there. We're doing a lot of research, a lot of advice, a lot of all these pieces. We have some good ideas and some good thought processes. But the reality is that I don't think there's any economist out there that can tell us 100% where exactly we're going to be a week from now, let alone 3 weeks from now, let alone 2 years from now. So what we're doing is we're really trying to tap into what we've been through in the past, what we know in the future, and try and kind of really help our clients to be making really smart decisions. Those that still need to do something and are in the right position to do something, they are still doing something. In fact, I've had quite a few people reach out to me in the last couple of days, because obviously our world is changing on what seems like an hourly basis. But in the last few days, they said, hey, we were actually thinking about doing something, I don't know, probably next year, but do you think there's opportunities here? So it's interesting. A lot of people would just think that being shut down, people are essentially stopping to even think about real estate. But I think the fact of the matter is right now people are stuck in their homes, and home has become more important than ever because we're locked in them essentially. So people are locked in their homes, they're locked with their thought processes, and people are having times to really consider these things. And there's definitely people that are saying, hey, this makes sense for us. And as their advisors, if it does make sense, we're supporting those goals.
That's great perspective, Amanda. And looking at '08 to '10, the real estate market versus now, from your perspective, I mean, this is like you said, it's a medical health crisis. It's not an economic crisis. So, do you foresee even the houses that have gone on the market, if any have gone on the market the last 2 weeks, have they dropped the price or have they tried to maintain level? Because, like you said, we don't know if this is going to last a long time, but if it doesn't last a long time, you shouldn't really be selling yourself short if you're looking to move your home property.
Great question. And as I said, I'm very, very data driven. In fact, I've been trying to do some nightly recaps for my clients, just kind of going into some of this stuff. The most important thing for us to note right now is a few things. There's a lot of people that are relating this back to 2008. First and foremost, it's a different crisis. 2008 was a financial crisis, a mortgage crisis, and then it became a housing crisis based on the other two. Right now, we're in a medical crisis, which is a much different crisis to be dealing with in total. And specifically, when we look at the recoveries off of different types of crises, what we tend to see is that off of a medical crisis, if we can figure out a way to cure or withhold what's going on out there in the medical sense, if we can contain it, so to say, then the likelihood of seeing more of a V-shape or a U-shape recovery is much higher. So that's an important thing for us to note right off the bat. Now, a medical crisis could then snowball into a financial crisis, an economical crisis, and a housing crisis. The reason that we're not having a fear, the reason that we don't think that this is going that route right now is because essentially what we see is that we're in a much different state. As a country, as a city, as a state, we're in a much different state with regards to our housing than we were back in 2008. First and foremost, the growth that we saw in the previous years up to there, two very bullish markets, if we look at about 2005 to 2008, or if I take it the last 4 years from now. In 2005 to 2008, on average, the country was growing at a rate, appreciating at a rate of about 10% on average. Some years it was even as high as 12% on average. That's a really, really high number, and that's a hard number to sustain. So we were growing at an excessive rate. If I now then track that and compare to what we've been doing in the last few years, even though we've been in the same bullish sellers market, our averages nationally have looked more of a 4 to 6% versus double that. So first and foremost, coming into this, we're at a much more sustainable point. We're not at a peak, or people will use the word bubble quite often. We're just not there. The other really important thing to note, leading up to 2008, one of the major issues with our mortgage and financial districts was the fact that consumers were encouraged to use their houses as collateral for everything. People were taking out HELOCs, using the houses as collateral to buy new houses, go on vacation, buy cars, buy TVs, do all these different things. The fact of the matter is that the amount of Americans that were underwater on their homes due to the fact that they had leveraged them to buy other things was an astronomical number. That number right now is a fraction of what it was going into 2008. So right now we're at a point where we haven't seen home values rise at the level that it did in that. In fact, it's about half of the level of that. And most of our homeowners in the United States have a good amount of equity and are not underwater on what they're doing. Those two things in itself, when you then wrap around with the medical aspect of it, give us a lot of confidence that this isn't going to snowball into a housing crisis. Now, that being said, anything can happen in this, and things are happening on a day-to-day, and we're trying to stay focused on what is happening, so we're giving our clients the best advice. But I'd tell you, and my thoughts are all based on people that are way smarter than I am, there is most of the people are saying this doesn't have the opportunity. The likelihood of this going that direction is lower than one may think.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you on that point, Amanda. And then just getting into the actual mindset of homeowners right now, and I don't know if you want to comment on this as well, but if you were thinking about maybe a renovation for this spring or for this summer, I mean, do you kind of plan accordingly, or do you maybe hold off on that, not knowing or trying to see if that you will get an ROI if it's not necessary, if that makes sense?
No, it's a great question. And I think once again, that's a situational piece, as I think so much of what we do is. If somebody's looking to renovate a home for the sole reason that they're trying to improve their home for their quality of life, then there is really no reason to stop it. I mean, obviously the things that you want to be careful of right now is letting people in your house and doing renovations and all that good stuff, but kind of forward thinking on it once we get past this, and we are getting to get past this. I like to remind people of that. But once we get past this, I think the ability to do renovations, if they're what I call personal renovations, just really trying to create a better quality of life for yourself, then I think that's absolutely fine. With regards to renovations with the idea of selling at the end, I usually say that the most important thing on that is just to be smart in renovations. I mean, the reality is that the big major renovations very rarely have the best rate of return. Typically, we see that the smaller cosmetics tend to go farther. I always kind of joke and say it's the reason that HGTV is popular. You can put the makeup on the house is going to probably do better in return, especially over a short period of time of owning a house, than the major facelift. But once again, I think it's something that, and that's a service that we offer to our clients is working hand in hand with the professionals that are going to be selling the house to say, hey, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense to do at that point if selling within a short period of time is your goal.
And then last but not least, I mean, I feel like though, like you mentioned, I mean, so much of the home buying process is a digital experience, from the first search terms to whatever website you would use, a Zillow or a Redfin, for instance. Do you think that all that is almost in this moment paid almost a bigger role, where some people has viewed it as kind of like annoying or an inconvenience, but right now it's so
Sure.
important?
Well, I'd probably say if you were to ask me 2 weeks ago, maybe even 10 days ago, how much of our experience with our clients was virtual, I would probably say 50%. Maybe 40 to 50% was virtual, because there is a lot that we can do online. I'm also laughing at myself now because I have clearly gone on record more than one time saying I didn't think that any point in time during my livelihood, during my career, that I would see people buy houses virtually. I just didn't think that the technology was going to be there yet. We're still not there yet, but all of a sudden we feel really close to that. We've taken that from a 40 to 50% virtual. Right now, as I said earlier, we're up to about 90% virtual. I mean, there's so much things that we are doing either through Zoom or through Skype or video conferences, or whatever it may be. We're just interacting more on that. We're doing virtual showings now. We do still have some clients that are doing in-person showings. When we do in-person showings, there is a tremendous amount of protocol that goes into place, obviously, for each showing, both for the safety of the buyers, the sellers, and obviously we're taking good care of ourselves too. So we've got protocol on that. So we are doing some of that. We have obviously inspections need to be a little bit in person. But other than that, I do think that we had a pretty good stronghold, but it's just been interesting to watch us trying to kind of kick it up a gear, in the fact that we've pretty much had to change, even if it was only 40 to 50% of our business, we've had to change a lot of how we do things, in a very, very short amount of time. Adaptability.
And then finally, I watched some of the content that you've put out in the past. You've said to watch cancellations too. How important are those in this moment as well? And how do people find those? Because maybe those aren't as readily available for comparable purposes.
Sure. No, it's a great topic. Canceled properties, just to explain it in case people don't know what they are, it's a listing that was on the market that tried to sell and was unsuccessful for some reason or another. Because I'm a data junkie and I like to understand all the data, I like to understand kind of what works, and I also like to understand what doesn't work. So by studying the canceled listings, that's telling me a little bit of what hasn't worked in the market. Canceled listings are very, very difficult for consumers to get their hands on. So the first thing you're going to want to do if you're looking for that is to reach out to your real estate advisor and ask them to kind of see if they can get you some of that information. But the reason that that's important to us, is that it just shows us what hasn't worked in the past. Now, the question mark is how are we looking at that right now? Right now, we are seeing some listings canceled. We are seeing that there are certain sellers that just say, hey, I'm just not comfortable with what's going on. I'm not comfortable having people in my house. I'm not comfortable moving through this market. We're just going to sit tight, and when this is past us, then we're going to do it. So you do have that happening. So in my mind right now, canceled listings have to be taken with maybe an extra grain of salt, just in the sense that we've got some situations outside of lack of success in very specific situations that can be impacting it. But we also watch canceled listings sometimes in understanding and knowing what's possibly moving forward. One of the things that we're really anticipating in this market from our side is that typically this is one of our busiest times of our year. And we do have quite a few sellers that aren't feeling comfortable going on. And some of them are saying, hey, let's postpone and discuss in a month or two. And some sellers are saying, hey, let's revisit in a year. But there's a strong belief that as we move forward through this and as we get kind of over the hump and we're moving in the right direction, that our market is going to start to feel a little bit undersupplied, creating maybe a bit of a seller's market. Now, realistically, leading up to this year, all of the writing was on the wall, everything going on between the election, the impeachment trials, the talks of war, talks of recession. There was so much writing on the wall that this wasn't going to be a very strong seller's market. We were expecting a little bit more of a buyer's market. But my belief is that we may come out of this undersupplied, and right, wrong, or indifferent, housing is an essential need that people will still need to buy homes. And it could create, maybe for a short time, a heightened market for some of the sellers, which I've got quite a few sellers that are saying, hey, maybe we don't get on right now, but maybe we watch and see if that does create itself. Maybe we're ready to swing it back.
Great insight there, Amanda. We really appreciate your time here this evening. Again, Amanda McMillan, the CEO of Chicago Home Partner, affiliate of App Properties. Amanda, thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and best of luck moving forward here.
Thank you so much. Be well and be safe.